Yo, what's up, guys? Excuse the quarantine room behind me, but we really need to talk about this Boston Uprising thing. The Boston Uprising are going through a pretty rough stretch right now. They just had one of the worst losses in Overwatch League history to the Florida Mayhem. One of their players pulled a James Ellsworth and got kicked off the team, and things are looking straight up hopeless for them. The Boston Uprising are 1-8 right now with the worst map differential in the league. And their awful run has got me thinking, what is the worst run in Overwatch League history? No discussion about the worst of can begin without talking about Shanghai in Season 1. They went 0-40, they had a 24 straight map loss record, and they honestly looked terrible. Even when they switched up their roster mid-season, it didn't help. They just kept losing. But when I think about Season 1 Shanghai, 0-40 wasn't all that bad. They became fan favorites through it, and everybody rallied behind Shanghai wanting to see them win, and it made their Season 2 first win even better. And their Stage 3 victory was hugely cathartic, seeing this perennial underdog franchise finally rise above and beat the powerhouses of the league. So you know what? Shanghai isn't like the worst of all time. So who are the other contenders? One sneaky contender is the Guangzhou Charge early in Season 2. Now, a lot of people might not remember this because the Charge finished the season so strong, but they were absolutely dog shit early in the season. They had 23 straight map losses, which was one behind Shanghai, and they honestly looked terrible. Yet, they did end up finishing the season really strong, and so I'll dock a little bit from that. Plus, I like their roster, so hey. We also have to talk about the Florida Mayhem. I still kind of feel like the Florida Mayhem didn't get enough hate, and they got a lot of hate in Seasons 1 and 2. They went 7-33 in Season 1 and 6-22 in Season 2. That's a 13-55 record through 2 seasons. Throw in 16 straight map losses and a ton of roster moves that meant nothing, and you got the Florida Mayhem. They did have some bright spots in there, you know, with Psy player popping off, but that's like watching Kemba Walker on the Bobcats put up like 35, but they still lose by 20 points. Like, yeah, you put up a lot of points, but you still lost. There are a couple more contenders that I feel like deserve mention. The Dallas Fuel's epic downfall after their homestand was legendary. Not only did they start playing like shit, but it seemed like their team was going through this immense inner turmoil. Seoul Dynasty is another sneaky contender for like a worst run kind of deal. Yes, I know, Seoul Dynasty is a super good team. And honestly, I'm putting them on this list just because I feel the type of way about them. But when you constantly lose the big games on your schedule, that says something. You know, it's like the Cincinnati Bengals getting to the playoffs every year and getting bounced in the first round. And I'm sure Seoul Dynasty fans can attest to this feeling that, yeah, sure, you know, we beat Atlanta and Boston and Florida, but we're still going to get destroyed by the Titans, Shock, and Gladiators anyway, so does any of this really matter? Vancouver Titans in the past 2 weeks are making a strong case for being put on this list if I do this video again. But in all honesty, I think the worst run in Overwatch League history is the Toronto Defiant in Season 2. The Toronto Defiant went 8-20 in Season 2, but 5 of those wins were in Stage 1. They won 3 more games after that. However, you might be saying, Xavier, teams have had worse records, teams have had worse performances, why do you put Toronto as the worst run in Overwatch League history? One word. Irrelevance. They didn't have Psy player popping off every game so it was fun to watch them lose. They didn't have the huge fan base and volatility that the Dallas Fuel had. They didn't have any sympathy like the Shanghai Dragons had. They had nothing. They were irrelevant. They were a team that played twice a week. You didn't watch. You figured they lost. Even if they did win every once in a while, you know, it was probably against a trash team like Washington, so who cares? There was no point in watching them. There were no stars on that team. Nobody really grabbed your attention. It was just a bunch of guys playing Overwatch. Yeah, they made roster moves, and Logix was fun to watch for a little bit, but you knew after those roster moves, most of the players on that team weren't going to be on the roster anyway, so who cares? You didn't care. And that's why Toronto had the worst run in the league. But hey, that's just my opinion. I do want to hear from you, so hey, leave in the comments and let me know what the worst run in Overwatch League history is. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hey, check out the Scrapyard Overwatch League podcast. It's a weekly podcast. We break down the current events in the Overwatch League scene. Here on this channel, we also do streams and these nice little opinion videos that I like to make. Thank you for entering the Scrapyard.